When the clock struck midnight and the country rang in the New Year's, the LGBT community closed out a year in which we saw many victories in our fight for equality. However, the names of those that have been lost to violence, suicide, and AIDS still weighed heavily on our hearts. As we took 2 steps forward, we saw a wave of backlash that might have shoved us 1 step back. As the political season ramps up, the familiar anti-LGBT rhetoric that is utilized to dehumanize us has become unavoidable. Candidates like Rick Santorum that do not have the political intelligence or political depth in order to run a viable campaign stand on our backs and scream about the dangers of homosexuality. While they say we deserve no special privileges, they have no problem using us as their last hope for election. As the season progresses, we will weather the same storm of hypocrisy that has become synonymous with social politics in an election season. It makes you angry, doesn't it? Me too. The problem is we have some culpability. Not only do we face pushbacks from opponents, we also face significant divides within our own community, including racism, sexism, and our own misconceptions about one another. Though we are far more organized than we have ever been, it is not enough. While our LGBT organizations work hard to give us legal and legislative equality, there are still millions of us who sit around and do nothing. There are those of us that are okay with what they have. My life is fine. It doesn't affect me, so I don't care. And then there are those of us that are angry. The pain of the words of family, friends, and clergy have blinded us, and we laugh, a jaded laugh, at the thought that things could change. Then there are those of us that are lazy or cowards. And for me, I fit into both categories. I have been both lazy and a coward. Logically, we know that there is so much left to be done in this movement that in a moment we choose to look at the entirety of the situation and leave it up to the activists. Leave it up to those that seem smarter than we are more able to handle the anger of the opposition. Then in our own hypocrisy, and my own hypocrisy, we cry when we see evangelic faces like Jamie Rodemeyer that have been bullied to death. We throw things in anger at the TV when politicians who could really be bettering society instead use fear or false evidence appearing real in order to distract from their own deficiencies. Why? We scream. Why? Here's the thing. The answer to the question of why lies with us. No civil rights movement has ever survived without continual, organized, unified support of all individuals within the repressed community. The knife in the back of the LGBT rights movement has always been a lack of continuity within the community. But I promise you, this is exactly what they want. If you divide the minority amongst itself, you slow or stop their progress. In order for a repressor to repress any segment of society, they first must remove the humanity of the individual. Keywords like barbarians, evil, unnatural, choice, deviants, they work to divide us from normal society by targeting our humanity and our morality. While political catchphrases like gay agenda start to divide us further from society by telling heterosexuals that homosexuals want more than what they have. All of these propaganda tools, and that's what they are, propaganda tools, have repercussions that not only affect our community's individuals, but all of society. So how do we combat these tactics and reclaim our humanity? It's not easy. And at a time when there is so much division in the world, it might seem nearly impossible. Life hasn't left me with a stitch in the ebony, though. And despite the uphill battles that I know we have left to fight, I am 100% sure that this is absolutely achievable. In any civil rights movement, it falls on the repressed to show compassion for the repressor. In both the women's and the African American civil rights movements, the repressed minorities saw legal and legislative equality long before they saw full application of that within their own lives. In both movements, the passing of legislation never signaled the end of that civil rights movement, but yet rather the beginning. The infusion of legislative equality gave voice to the minority, so they could stand as one in both opposition to bigotry and in the affirmation of their own humanity. Only then was society able to confront their own feelings and be introduced to the humanity of the individual. Now is the time to move into the next phase of our civil rights movement, the phase that in every other civil rights movement has been the most important. This is when the minorities' individuals clear the remnants of the gags that had previously been shoved down our throats and take back our voices. When the collective whole of a repressed minority stands up together, their voices become louder than the opposition that spews the hate. More importantly, when the repressed minority is given voice, then they can teach others about their humanity. Knowledge. Knowledge is the key to the next phase of our movement. Visibility of the homosexuality is new in sociological times, especially within the United States. Only 4 decades have passed since Stonewall, and although our public LGBT figures have done wonders to improve our visibility, there is still a massive lake of misunderstandings and ignorance that divides heterosexuals from homosexuals. It is easy to say, well, I pay my taxes, I serve my country, I love my partner. Heck, it's even easier to say, I bleed, I breathe, I'm human. And in reality, that should be enough. And for many heterosexuals, it absolutely is. But for others, there are one-line stereotypes that strangle their ability to see us as equals. That in no way means that they are incapable of seeing us. It simply means that they are missing important facts. Lines of communication have been shut because some members of both sides stand toe-to-toe on an imaginary line. For change to truly occur, conversation must take place. Think about when you get into an argument with a friend or with a partner or maybe a family member. The moment that both of you independently decide that you're right and the other person is wrong, the conversation veers. It becomes a fight for who is more right, and then the substance of the original discussion becomes absolutely lost. On both sides, there are organizations and individuals who act like martyrs, and because of their fight for moral or political positioning, they interrupt the conversation for people who aren't afraid of truth and facts, who aren't afraid of humanity. In the next phase, the collective whole of our community, both lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, must reopen these lines of communication, not with a sense of superiority or as martyrs. This is dangerous to our movement. Instead, we have to do it with honesty, patience, and acceptance. Lay down the anger that is so natural to a repressed community. Lay down the defensiveness that, while justified, will only serve to harm our movement. All these things that we have been denied in our past and both denied to others have to be given freely. Let's not waste another moment, because the sad fact that in this community, a moment that is wasted is another precious life that is lost. We live in a technical world. Until the moment that all of us, millions of us, can stand in the Mall of Washington, D.C., as other members of civil rights movements of the past have done, and show the community, the country, our numbers, our strength, and our unity, then flood the internet with videos and audio files and blogs about your humanity. How does it make you feel when you hear anti-LGBT rhetoric? What was coming out like? Who did you lose upon coming out, and who stuck by you? Maybe you've lost someone. Maybe you're straight and you've lost someone because of anti-LGBT rhetoric, whether it be to violence or suicide or disease, or maybe your relationship just fractured. Tell us about it. Tell us how that affected you, your life, negatively. And tell us about the positives. Show your humanity to the world. When we have a tendency in this day and age to think that you have to have money and power to be heard. But history shows us that it's actually the street kids, the homemakers, it's the middle and the lower class. It's the people that are called outsiders, whose voices become that catalyst for change. Don't do it with anger. We have drowned in our anger and our disappointment for too long. Instead, approach this year as a year of teaching. Do it with patience. Young and old, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, whatever race or religion you might be, start the reclamation of your humanity by reclaiming your voice. When we stand together as one, hate will not be able to drag us down. We will fight peacefully with the tools of truth and compassion, and we will vindicate the lives that have been lost to hate and lies. As Dr. Martin Luther King, my hero, once said, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. A man cannot ride you unless your back is bent.